Did anybody say that? Did any of y'all say, oh, well, I can't use that. I won't be able to do this or this or this. None of y'all said none of that. Now, how many of y'all have said, thought, somebody's asked you, what you willing to do to get some help? And how many of y'all say that again? Anything. Now, we all know you ain't willing to do anything. Because I can think of some things you probably ain't willing to do. Now, are you willing to come in here and put all your little wants and needs to the side and put recovery first? Okay? Because you put dope first. You put dope in front of your health, your diet, your family, your wife, your job. You put it in front of everything. So how many of y'all, when y'all come in here and it's time to put recovery in front of everything, you go, I'm ready to go home. Well, what that sort of means is you're probably not ready to get there. In order for you to get this, you got to be willing. You got to be willing to do some things that you really don't want to do. What's your first name?
Sean.
Where are you from? What you been using besides people?
Heroin meth.
Heroin and meth.
Yes, sir.
When you doing heroin and meth, do you do some things that you really don't want to do?
Certainly.
Yeah. And you don't even question it.
Not at all.
So coming in here, if you want some help, you're gonna have to do some things you really don't want to do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, how many of y'all, when it comes to doing what you don't really want to do, using wise shit that's killing you, you don't even question it. But you come in here, something that's going to help change your life around, you should be saying one thing. Somebody says something, suggests something to you. This is what you should say. Okay. Okay. How many of y'all have run in treatment centers before? You should, as many times as some of y'all been to them, but none of y'all have ever run a treatment center. Not one day in your life have you. Yet you know how to run one. If you really, 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 really want that, when somebody that works here suggests something to you, the only thing you should say is, okay. Now, I want you to ask yourself this question, whether you've been here one day, whether you're fixing to leave. Do you want some help? Not need it, really want some help. Because I don't know about you, but come Wednesday, 20 years ago, when I walked in the treatment center, everything they told me to do, this is what I said to them. Okay. And a lot of times I didn't want to. Where you been? Don't be sorry, just where you been? Okay. Where you been? They had to wake y'all up? Huh? I tell you what, you come up here, your lucky day, you get to go back there. Come on up here. What did you, oh, you were sitting here the other day sleeping, right? Okay, yeah, come on up here. I tell you what, you swap out with Israel. Did you get some sleep? Huh? Huh?
Not yet, dude. I can't consistently sleep.
You get tired enough, you will. You ready to roll? Huh? Not that kind of roll. I mean, treatment roll. All right. Tell me your first name. Nick, where you from, Nick?
From Central.
Have I had you before? All right, they should be able to now. So why do you keep going to treatment? You won't do what they say.
No,
Why
not at
not?
all. The first treatment I went to was the Acadian Recovery Center in Lafayette, and when I got out of there, I was kind of young, I guess, and just didn't practice anything they told me to do. Fell off pretty quick. Second time, I went to Woodlake, Naperville, and I left from sober living because my girlfriend wrote me a letter. She came pick me up, and I left. And
You know what I just heard the
Yeah.
whole time you've been talking?
what's that?
Blah, 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 diggity, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, pretty much. But those were the reasons I didn't. do what I
No,
was
they
supposed
weren't
to.
reasons, they were excuses. And you full of those. Do you want some help?
I do.
How many times have you said that?
I mean, I don't know. I guess a few times. But
You 1,000 times?
probably.
You know, when somebody comes in a place like this and they want some help, the way they carry themselves, the way they do things, they quit doing it. Because the way that you carry yourself, the way that you do things, it's obvious to everybody that knows you, it don't work. You're the only one that thinks somehow, someday you're gonna make it work. And the more you try, the worse shit gets. See, I would probably bet one of my cars, and I love my car, that your mind's starting to go right now about leaving.
Not at all.
No?
Nope.
Good thing I bet the worst one I had. What's your first name?
Morgan.
Have I had you before?
Mhm.
No. You ever been to treatment?
Yes, sir.
How many times?
This would make my fourth.
Where'd you go the first time?
Edgefield Recovery in Cheneyville.
Second time?
Edgefield Recovery in Cheneyville.
Please don't tell me the third time.
Edgefield Recovery in Cheneyville.
What, you trying to buy stock or what?
Apparently.
Huh?
Apparently.
Well, this is nothing like that.
Yeah. I see that.
Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I got it.
You'll actually get treatment
Yes, sir.
if you want it.
Absolutely.
But you'd have got some there if you really would have wanted it.
Yeah, I wasn't willing to go any lengths of it.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
But see, regardless of what they do there, they gave you one of those,
Mm-hmm.
one of those big books, didn't they?
Oh, I had one already.
Any legitimate treatment center will tell you, go to meeting, get a sponsor and do the damn steps.
Absolutely.
Something you ain't willing to do.
Oh, I did do it.
No, you didn't.
I did. Well, wait, excuse me? Wait, what? Yeah, I mean, I did go to meetings. I did sponsor. I did that, but I wasn't willing to go the full extent,
You
apparently.
ain't never
because I
took the
backed.
steps.
Huh?
I said you ain't
No, I couldn't hear you.
Okay,
I just thought
I know. Full of shit.
Probably.
You ain't never taken the steps. Never.
or applied them.
You have to apply them to take them. Now, I think you probably have. But you hadn't. What's the longest you ever stayed sober?
Yeah.
Well, show me in that book, turn to the page where it says stop after a year. Huh?
It's not there.
I know. So did you do what the book said?
I did not.
Well, I've just been trying to tell you. Why not?
Because I thought I was smarter than the program.
Well, you are. Because the program is dumbed down to make people like you use their common sense and do things real simple.
Yes, sir.
It's actually an ass backwards program. Because they tell you to win, you gotta lose.
How about that?
How about it? But you wouldn't know nothing about that book. Are you powerless over alcohol?
Damn right.
Well,
Because because it makes the decisions. I don't,
yeah, but why?
because I let it.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Because if you let it, you'd have quit letting it. You wouldn't have had to come here. You know, the more you talk, the more I know you don't know nothing about this. I want you to do yourself a favor. Don't do me any, do yourself one. I want you to turn to the first page in the big book. Just you. Gotcha. I want you to tell me what's on it.
Priority to stay out of self. Do something for my program once daily.
No. Not what you wrote in it.
Okay.
What's the first page in the big book say?
Nothing,
That's right.
because I know double nothing.
That's right. Did you hear what I told that young man about the way he carries himself?
Yes, sir.
See, the way you carry yourself and the way that you answer questions and you do shit, it don't work.
Yeah, I know.
So why are you trying to keep doing it while I'm talking to you? Because see, look, I listen to what anybody tells me nowadays.
Mhm.
And everything that you've told me proves that you don't know nothing about it. And I'm just sort of trying to figure out what's so funny. Because every time I ask you something, you laugh, smile,
Because you're right.
huh?
You're right, man.
Well, you know, most people who are in your position, the reason they laugh and they smile because it keeps them from doing what they really want to do, which is cry.
No, I have no problem doing that. I do that a lot.
See, even after what I tell you about the way you carry yourself and answer questions, you still can't help yourself. What's up with you? You ready to roll?
I'm already rolling, sir. I'm already working.
Did you get back from the other institution you went to?
I've never been to one. This is my first one.
They didn't send you out to the hospital?
Oh, yes, sir.
That's an institution.
Yes, sir.
How you feeling?
I'm better. Feeling better.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
Better.
Ain't got but one ticker.
Yeah, you need to remember that. What's your first name?
Cameron.
Say it again.
Cameron.
Cameron? Where you from, Cameron?
Baton Rouge.
Whereabouts?
Sorry.
Whereabouts in Baton Rouge?
Broadmoor.
That's where you went to school?
No, I went to school at Lake Sherwood, or I dropped out of high school and went to college
Well, where did you grow up?
in Broadmoor.
In Broadmoor?
Yes, sir.
I won't hold that against you. How old are you?
I'm 30.
Physically, you're 30.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You ever been to treatment?
I did once, but I wasn't really ready to humble myself.
Where'd you go?
Serenity Center. Yeah, I walked out.
Probably thought that was the smartest thing in the world to do, huh? So when you walked out, how long ago was that?
2018, I think.
Okay.
Maybe 2017.
Things been going downhill since.
Ups and downs.
Yeah. See, what people like you do, you take 1 or 2 steps forward, and then about 12 back. You'll regroup a little bit and take 1 or 2 forward and 20 back. But all you can add up is a couple you take forward. If you add all of them up, your ass going back. You've been going that way for quite some time. You want some help?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First name, Martin. Where you from?
Lafayette.
Whereabouts in Lafayette? Okay. You don't sound like you from Lafayette.
I've been living there for 5 years. I originally passed
Well, that's where you're from then. What you use?
Right.
Now, no IV in yet?
No.
Some. Oh, you probably said you'd never do Oxford. First time you started doing them, first couple of times, did you ever say, look, I'll never be in treatment? Did you think after the first couple you'd end up in treatment? Ever since you started, have you did things that you said you wouldn't do? That's the question. You hadn't? Have you ever did more than you intended to do? Have you ever put yourself in a situation where your freedom should be taken if you got caught? So you've done some things that you really didn't have to do. Right. How long you been using?
11 years.
Okay. Have you ever been to treatment? Okay. In those 11 years, has it gotten better, stayed the same, or worse?
Past 6 months, gotten where I need help.
Worse. And if you study that book like he hasn't, he'll tell you that. It'll never get better. When you first started, was it sort of like you were up here on a roller coaster and you started coming down and it was so slow and so slow you didn't see it? You did something that sort of mortified you. Sort of got used to that and you came down a little more and you did something that mortified you and you got used to that and you just keep coming down, 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 and it's so slow and slow you don't see it.
You're absolutely correct.
I know. How do you think I know that? Huh? Because every time I would come down a little bit and get used to it, it really didn't bother me until I get another little bother and another little bother. And you keep going down and down, and everybody that cares about you tries to tell you something, and you tell them, hey, it's okay, I'm good. And inside, you dying. But you won't tell nobody.
There's always good people, and that was always all right.
What I've basically been saying for the last couple of minutes. You sharp old fella. What's up with you? How many times does this make? Why do you keep coming, dude? I'm serious. Why do you keep coming? You gotta be about one miserable dude about right now. Because you get just enough recovery where it just keeps screwing you up worse and worse. It ain't been fun for you in a long time. See what that book says, the luxury, it's been over. It's a necessity. All right, refresh my memory a little bit. I slept over the weekend. Tell me who you are again.
Marcus.
And you've been to how many treatment centers?
In the last year, I've probably been to about 12, 13.
Okay.
And I've walked out all of that.
Why?
Want to go get high?
Well, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
But I'm confused why somebody would come in a place like this who still wants to go get high. And when I say high means you're actually enjoying it. You ain't been high in a long
Oh,
time.
no. It's not fun.
Yeah.
Um,
You're just using out of necessity. Now, I want you to listen to what I'm fixing to tell you. And the only way you'll know it works is if you try. Do you know why you keep walking out of them? Because the obsession gets you by the yang and it won't let go. Now, an obsession means it overrules everything. You coming in here, are you gonna think about drugs? Huh? Yeah, fuck, how long you been thinking about it? Years. But for it to turn into an obsession and overrule everything and you leave, you gotta take that thought and start fucking nursing it. So when the thought comes up, I want you to do something that works, but you won't know it until you do it. When it starts coming up, go, hey, bro, I need some help. And don't buy into it. Keep flap, 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 flap. Because then you're going to flap on out the door.
Just like I hype it up.
That's what I just said. Now, what I just told you, you'll never know it works unless you try. Because every time that you start thinking about it, the last one you want to ask for help is God. All right, what we're going to do today, we're going to get into the fourth step. If you're come in here, okay, when did you get here? What's your first name?
Gary?
Gary, swap out with him. This one. You say Gary? And where are you from, Gary? What you been using? You ever been to treatment? Where? When?
2000.
Which one? Lie there? You want some help this time? You know, you sort of look like it. You sort of look like you got that look. What's your first name? Where are you from? From where? You ever been to treatment? Did you go to October 11? I thought I recognized you. You got some audacity, dude. Bring all that shit up in my sober living. You want some help? Yeah. Sit down here. Let me tell you something. Did you hear what I told you a minute ago? Huh? Did you hear what I told you a minute ago? Okay, don't forget it. I know. I know. If we was out there, it'd be different, huh? Y'all open y'all's big books. Some things hadn't changed. The page XXV in 3I. You got a big book? Open it up. XXV in 3I. What we're gonna do this morning, we're gonna get everybody up to date. We're gonna get everybody caught up, and we're gonna get into the first part of the fourth step. And the reason we're gonna get everybody caught up because the first part of the fourth step is gonna tie in to what you've done so far. So we gotta have everybody's attention. We gotta have everybody ready to roll. Do you read okay? I want you to start reading the first paragraph down on page XXB and 3I. Good.
We believe, so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy.
Okay. Close your books. Now, how many of y'all have came into treatment here, other places, and they drill it in your head about the allergy and the obsession? Now, step one, it's a problem statement. Woo-hoo! You okay? Okay. It's a problem statement. Everything that you do in this program, or everything you don't do in this program, is going to hinge on how well you understand the problem. Step one. Look, how many of y'all have been to treatments with myself, with other people, and they drill it in your head about the obsession and the allergy, and you can get up here and probably do education, and you can repeat the lingo, and you'll say, I have a mental obsession and a physical allergy. But as far as putting them together and really understanding them, how many of y'all, it goes right over your head? Because somebody like me, when they're armed with some facts about themselves, when they're armed with this obsession and this allergy, and they actually see the problem, that this obsession got you by the yang yang. And if something don't give with the obsession, you're going to end up places you don't want to be. You're going to end up with people you don't want to be with. And you're going to have to stay longer than you want to stay. Now, how many of y'all keep ending up places you don't want to be, like treatment? How many of y'all end up with people you don't want to be with? And how many of y'all stay longer than you want to stay? Now, that sucks. How many of y'all, this obsession, it tells you everything. It tells you what job to take, what relationship to get in, what car to buy, what job to take, where to move, where not to move. It tells you everything. And if somebody asks you if you're powerless, you go, I don't know. And the obsession is just riding you. How old are you? 21. Where should you be at 21? Yeah, having fun, huh? Not up in here messing with me, huh? Yeah, I bet right now you wish you were in school, huh? I wish you were too. Because I could just see you, if something don't give with you, where you're going to end up. What's the longest you ever been locked up? Where? Because you just don't strike me as the kind that would last very long for a long length of time. Large any drawers over there? Huh? Tell me the truth. Okay. Huh? Say that again? I can't have your heart racing, it's yours. You had it racing. But look, let me tell you something. I want you to listen to me before we move on. You want some help this time? Because if you do, I'll help you any way I can. But what I will not put up with is what you did last time at one of my places. Okay? And we both know what you did. Right? Right? Okay. All right. Now, step one, laying the foundation of this program. If you don't lay the foundation, who in here has ever did construction work? Remind me not to ask y'all to help do anything for me. If you lay a foundation, if the mortar and the sand is right, that foundation will be solid. And any structure you put on top of it will be solid. How many of y'all have ever went to an old wood frame house up on blocks? And the doors won't shut and open right, and the windows are hard to open, and they stick and all that shit. And how many of y'all say, damn, whoever built this didn't know what they was doing? It's not the structure that's rickety. It's the foundation that structure sits on. Now, how many of y'all come in these treatment centers, and when it's time to lay the foundation, you got some cracks in your shit? And the structure that you try to put on a foundation that's got cracks in it will come tumbling down on top of your head. Now, how many of y'all been to treatment before and you tried to lay a foundation that wasn't solid? And when you started building this spiritual structure, 2 through 12, it came down on top of your head. So the foundation has to be solid. Now, step 1 is a problem statement. And the problem's twofold. Raise your hand if you can tell me one part. What is it? Okay, the physical allergy that centers in my body. Who can tell me the other part? Raise your hand. What? The mental obsession. Now, you have to sort of know how they work. One's mental and one's physical. The allergy is in the body. The obsession is in my mind. What's the longest you've ever went not using in your little using career? What's the longest you've ever been sober?
3 months.
Okay. In those 3 months, you put nothing in you. And you picked up after 3 months. Why did you pick back up? Now, once you picked up, once this thing said, hey, go get some more. Let's go again. Once you reached over and dumped the first one into your system, what'd you dump in? What'd you put in?
Like what substance?
Yeah.
Heroin.
Okay. You shot it?
Nope.
Snorted it? Okay. The first time you snorted it, did you set this physical part off? The way you'll know that is that allergy set off a physical craving in your body for some more. Now, how many of y'all have done this kind of thing? You'll come over here and the obsession makes you start. And once you start, you have no control over how much you're going to use because the allergy in your body sets off a craving. What would y'all think of him? What would y'all think of Jared if Jared came up here and he says, hey, I got 10 X-Lax tablets in my hand. I'm going to eat them, and in an hour, I'm not going to shit. What would you think of Jared?
He's bullshit.
Not for long. Now, if Jared ate 10 X-Lax tablets, Jared, what would happen in about an hour? What would you be doing? Huh? Okay. And what if you went to the bathrooms and they were locked? What would you do? Huh? Okay. What if you couldn't find the bag? You run around this place. What would you do? You're gonna shit in your pants. Now, could any amount of willpower keep your asshole from shitting? It'd be impossible, wouldn't it? Now, look, we're all grown adults in here. Okay. If he took those chemicals in the X-Lax and put them in his body, those chemicals would start to work on Jared's body. Jared's body would take over and tell his mind what to do, which is go shit. Could his mind overrule his body? Now, when you take this other substance called heroin and you dump it in your body, does that substance start to work on your body? Does your body take over? Huh? And tell your mind what to do, which is go get some. And your mind can't overrule your body once you start. How many of y'all, you look at that example about the X-lax and you laugh about it? But when it comes to these other substances, it's the same principle. Once you put it in you, if you like me, my body craves more. And the more I use, the more my body actually craves. And the more my body craves, the more I have to use. Now, every time I pick up the first one, it equals 1 unit of craving, which makes me take the second one. And when I dump the second one in, the craving actually doubles, which makes me put the third one in. And when I put the third one in, the craving triples, which makes me put the fourth one in, which makes the craving quadruple. So I never get enough. Now, why do I put the first one in? Is it an act of the mind or the body? Who says the mind? Raise your hand. Who says the body? Raise your hand. Who don't know? Look, the first one, which sets everything in motion, is an act of the mind. Once I put the first one in, this son of a bitch goes on vacation. Now it becomes physical. See, now it becomes this. So when I put the second one in, is the second one an act of the body or the mind? Now, the second one on is an act of the body. The first one is an act of the mind. Now, if you never put the first one in, would you set all this off? Now, how many of y'all are just as horrible at doing none as you are at doing one? Look, how many of y'all can't do just one? And how many of y'all can't do none? Now tell me that ain't some powerless shit. Jared, how many times have you known, you knew it, you could see it, and you knew it? If I pick up this, I'm fixing to lose some shit. That's really worthwhile to me. That I've worked a long time to get to a position to accomplish. Do you see how powerful that is? Now, for it to overrule and you not put that in, how many times have you tried every fucking thing under the sun not to put the first one in except what actually works, which is this shit? Now, if somebody can actually see that this has you by the yang yang, and what's going to take care of this is this. You know what you shouldn't worry about? What we feed you. The only thing on your mind should be, I can't wait to fucking get an education. I can't wait to learn what I need to do to get that son of a bitch out of my head. And if you ain't here for that reason, this won't work. I'm telling you, it won't work. Now, just think what you could do. Look, us alcoholics, we can do some shit. We are some creative ass people. Just think what you could do and where you could go if that son of a bitch wasn't riding you. And you come in here and we ask you to do a few things to help us out that you really don't want to do, and you go, I'm not doing that. when what you should be saying is, the trade-off would be, I get this removed. What do you think keeps kicking your ass? This or this?
Well,
Yeah. You cannot quit putting the first one in. And every time you put the first one in, it's over with. You can't control how much you're going to eat. Now, when they explained this to me, and I really got it, it's like a light bulb went off. And I went, you know what? I don't care what they feed me. I don't care what I do around here. But I smoked at the time, and if they would have told me we're a no smoking facility, I would have went, okay. Okay. How many of y'all put everything in front of what's going to take that out of your head? Now, if you can't stay stopped because of that, and once you start, you have no control over how much you're going to use because of that. What you are is powerless. Now, I drank and drugged for about 27 years. Probably longer than some of y'all are old. And I never thought in my wildest dreams that would get out of my head. I had sort of come resigned to the fact that I was just down for the count. And I was going to go to the bitter end. And I was going to blot out the consciousness of my intolerable situation the best I could. How many of y'all come in here and y'all sort of think nothing is going to remove that? Because you think you've tried everything. And you probably have, except that. Look, how many of y'all, the last thing you want to do is this shit? Look, I tried everything. So I wouldn't have to come in a treatment center and do this shit. Now, the last thing I tried turned out to be the best thing ever happened to me. So, Jared, you know what that tells me about me? I don't know what the fuck's good for me. That's what that tells me about me. See, how many of y'all think y'all know everything and you know what's good for you? And when people who know what they're talking about try to tell you something, you go, I'm not going to do that. How many of y'all want to be sons again? How many of y'all want to be fathers again? How many of y'all want to be brothers again? Nephews, uncles again? And the steps, that's the tip of the iceberg. When I first came in here, the only thing I wanted was for that to be out of my head. And I got more than I ever fucking bargained for. See, I can look another human being in the eye and I can tell them, hey, I am a son today. Not a son of a bitch, a son. I'm a father today. How many of y'all have parents who are getting elderly? How many of y'all in here, they worry themselves sick about y'all? How many of y'all have children in here who count on you? How many of y'all have mothers, sisters, wives? Now, those people I just mentioned, Gary, those people I just mentioned, if they knew what kind of effort you were putting in here since day one, would they say, man, I knew you had it in you? Or would they say, hey, man, you better step it up? What would they say? what would they say about you? Because see, a lot of them are at home right now going, God, I hope he gets God, please help him. Now, if you really want this help that we're talking about, how many times you been to treatment?
4.
You? Every time you leave a legitimate treatment center, they tell you, they say, look, go to meetings, get you a sponsor, and do the steps. Because see, look, after IOP's over with and OP's over with, you know what you're left with? Meetings, sponsorship, and the steps. Now, how many of y'all have run from that shit like the plague? Jerry, do you want that out of your head? Do you? What you willing to do? And don't tell me anything because you're not. Are you willing to do what I'm fixing to put up here as the solution? Don't answer that. Do not answer that. I want you to really watch what I'm fixing to put in here, up here. And if you're not willing to do that, this won't work. It just won't. And you will go back out and do that. Now, Jerry, every time you go back out and get this, does it get worse? Do you do things you said you would never do? You never comprehended doing. I wasn't raised like that, which you weren't, were you? But you go against everything you were taught. That's somebody's got you. And you know the crazy thing is it don't have to have you. Now, the solution that works on that problem is in step 2. Jerry, I want you to read step 2 off that wall for me. Now, when you hear the term power greater than you, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? No, that's somebody's behind you. Yeah, you. God. God. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Huh? Stop. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear power greater than yourself? How many of y'all, when y'all hear the term power greater than yourself, the first thing that comes to your mind is God? Now, in step 2, it don't say nothing about God. Look, I don't care if you like red or you come in living under a bridge. Every one of y'all are struggling with what? God. If you weren't, your ass wouldn't be sitting in here. Now, some people who really knew what they were talking about, when it came to people like me who were struggling with that word, they said, use the method of substitution. Take the God idea and just set it to the side. Now, I have no problem doing that. I've been setting the God idea to the side for about 20-something years. And they told me, substitute 2 things till you get going. And those 2 things were the fellowship in AA. Now, the fellowship, a conservative estimate, and they keep it real conservative because if you've ever tried to follow up with alcoholics, it's like fucking herding cats. So instead of saying a number and somebody debunking it, they keep it real low. So nobody can say, Oh, well, it ain't that many. Conservatively, worldwide, there are 3 million recovered alcoholics. Recovered. Who used to be like you, and they ain't like you no more. Now, 3 million are telling you this shit works. Is that a power greater than you? I would say so. So, take the fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is going to the meetings and supporting you while you get going. If you take the fellowship and insert it as a power greater than you, and then the program of AA, that's actually doing the damn steps. That's the program of AA. Look, the fellowship in the meeting, the program is in the book. The program is in the first 103 pages of the big book. And what the steps do is change me. That's what the steps do. Now, how many of y'all have been to treatment before? Raise your hand. You leave out of treatment and you go to meetings and you do nothing fucking else. And after about a month or two, what starts working on you again? And it'll tell you, man, that AA is a bunch of bullshit. It'll tell you, hey, nobody will find out. Now, people like me who have that problem, who just go to meetings, will keep that problem. Now, let's say you go to meetings, you get all up in the fellowship, and you do the steps like the book says. You know what's going to happen to you? Well, you're not far off, but something happens first. Huh? Say that again? Change. Now, I want you, look, you get nothing else out of this morning. I want you to listen to this. Us alcoholics, we some hard-headed ass fuckers. And they ain't much changes us. So if he took the steps and changed, would it be him providing the change? Or would it be because he's made himself ready to access that? Would that, it would have produced a change in him. And once that produces that, guess what else that power does? See, you said steps removed, but they don't. The steps allow you to tap in to some power. And the power is what removes the obsession. Now, how many of y'all, when we start talking about a power and changing, how many of y'all go, oh man, what a bunch of goddamn bullshit. I'm good. You so good? You're in treatment again. Or with me. How many of y'all want something different? But you won't do nothing different. You won't do anything different. And you up in here with a bunch of other guys like yourself, and your ego and pride starts kicking in. And you won't show nobody that you're willing to do what it takes because you're scared what some other broke brain ass idiots are going to think of you in here. Now, how many of y'all have fit yourself like a pretzel to try to impress idiots you've been running around with? And when your ass gets put in the damn penitentiary, none of those idiots come see you. Now, You told me the other day you have some children. 2 boys? Yeah. See, I don't forget shit like that. I might forget somebody been in treatment with me 5 times, but I don't forget that. Now, those 2 boys. Don't look down. I want you to look me straight in the eye. Those 2 boys, do they need somebody who has their shit together? Who can show them right from wrong? Huh? Is that what you want for them? Or do you want some idiot showing them what to do? What do you want? Yeah. Because let me tell you something. When they hit about 10, 11, or 12, you know who they'll be bragging about? You. But I want you to listen to what I'm fixing to tell you, and I know firsthand, if you don't get your shit together and show them, somebody else will. Now, this right here and this right here, you got to put them together. The fellowship alone, not enough. How many of y'all have come out of treatment, you go to meeting, you fall flat on your face, and you say, that AA shit don't work? How many of y'all have ever said that? Come on. Look, if you just went to the meeting, you didn't do the AA shit. You just went to meetings. To do the AA shit, you would have to do what the first 103 pages of the book say. Now, I want each one of y'all to grab your big book, and I want you to get the first 103 pages between your hands like that. Come on. Now, I want you to think about what you've been doing and the results you've been getting. Now, would you rather keep doing what you've been doing and getting the results you've been getting, or do this? See, this right here is the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Right here. You see all this other crap? You know what it is? Crap. It's crap. Now, is it good crap? Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, but it is crap. That's the program right there. Now, those 12 steps, they have directions. And this is the only book that has the directions for the 12 steps. Now, what you got to find out is, and figure out for yourself, I can't do it for you. Would you rather do this program or your program? That's what you say. Which one would you rather do?
I mean, I would rather do my program.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Your program. Now, how old are you physically?
32.
32. When you were in kindergarten physically, did you stand up and tell the class, when you grew up, you wanted to be a patient at Woodlake when you grew up?
No, I ain't telling that.
Okay. Well, then I would say that your program don't
Work.
Now, if you'd have just told me, I did stand up and tell them that in kindergarten, you know what I tell you? Don't change a fucking thing, it's working. But you didn't say that.
No, I didn't.
Look where you sitting. You're sitting in here because your program don't work. And the crazy shit is, you keep trying to make it work. And the more you try to work shit, yeah. But you were convinced up here somehow, someday, your ass is going to make it work. Now, I want you to think of this. If you could actually make it work, do you think you would have went through what you went through? Or would you have made it work a long time ago? Now, this is a recipe to put your life back together in proper order. Recipes, they're meant to be followed precisely. Look, let's say one of those nurses made a cheesecake and brought it up here and said, hey, you want to taste it? Which I fucking never would. But let's say I took a bite of it and I went, damn girl, that's the best cheesecake I ever ate. Give me the recipe. So she goes back there and sits down and writes me the recipe. Precise, clear-cut recipe. And she puts it in my hand. Now, with my keen intellectual mind, I'm gonna make a better fucking cheesecake. So I take her recipe, and her first thing says, grease a cake pan. I ain't got time for that shit. I just get a cake pan. Her second direction says, add 2 eggs and a cup of sugar. I like shit sweet. I add 1 egg and 3 cups of sugar. Her third suggestion says, blend it with a blender for 10 minutes. Now, what fucking guy has a blender? So I take a spoon and I slop it around for 5. And her last one says, bake it at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Well, I'm fucking hungry. I broil it at 500 degrees for 12 minutes. I pull it out, I take a bite of it, and I spit it out, and I go, that goddamn girl gave me the wrong damn recipe. Now, did she give me the wrong recipe, Gary? I just couldn't follow it. Precise, clear-cut direction. Now, guess what these are? Precise, clear-cut direction. The recipe to put your life back together in proper order. If this shit don't work and you get loaded again, a burnt cheesecake, it's not because the recipe don't work. It's because you didn't follow what? Not direction. Precise, clear-cut direction. Now, if Jerry would have wrote this shit up, I promise you he would follow it to a T. But since he didn't write the shit, he thinks he can do it better. So do this. Just play like, for shits and giggles, you wrote this shit. That you thought of everything, that you did this. Then you might follow it. Now, this program, it works. But you wouldn't know that. Because you've never, because if you had, you wouldn't be sitting in here. Now, Jerry, when you go out and start using again, do you do things you don't want to do? If you do this, are you going to do some things you don't want to do? Now, I'm a little slow, as you can tell, but I think you start to do some things you don't want to do, like stay here. You're going to have to do some things you don't want to do, because we can't help you if your butt ain't here. Do you remember what I told you the other day when you were nodding out on me? I said, you never, ever have to live like you lived again. You never have to. Do you remember that? You don't? I know some of them do. So even with you nodding out, you help some people. Just imagine if you was awake what you could do. Now, if somebody gives you 2 sets of facts, and what they've done is, over here, they've given you a set of facts. You either got it or you don't. And if you didn't have it, you wouldn't be sitting in here. Hurry up. Don't get none on you. Now, Step 2, the solution. This shit works. They got about 3 million of us facts walking the face of this earth. Now, if you got 2 set of facts, you got to decide which one you want more. Now, up to this point, which facts have you wanted more? Yep. Or this? Which ones have you wanted more? You?
Rather solve the problem.
Yeah, but think about the question.
I'd rather have the solution.
How long? Yeah, but how long has this been presented to you? How long have people been trying to tell you to do this?
Years.
But you have always decided to do. So which facts have you been operating on? Those? Or those?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Okay. Look, before you came in the door, were you operating on this? Or this?
I was feeding the problem. What do you mean?
Well, were you using,
Yes.
setting this off?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these were the facts you've been operating on. Now, if you want a different set of facts, you got to start operating on a different set of facts. Now, if somebody gives you 2 set of facts, can you operate on the same 2 facts at the same time? Not unless your name is fucking Houdini. You're going to operate on one set of facts or the other. Now, that's why I asked you, which ones have you been operating on? Now, how many of y'all want some different shit?
Yeah.
Then you got to start operating on a different set of facts. And quit worrying what everybody here thinks of you. Start worrying what your families think of you. Because they're the ones who have to suffer, not the ones in here. Now, if you have fact number 1 and fact number 2, it's time for you to make a decision. Now, Jerry, do decisions change anything? Do they?
Yeah.
Who says yeah? Who says no? I want you to picture this farm. They got a big 60-acre lake. You with me? In the middle of it, they got a log. You with me? 3 big old bullfrogs sitting on it. One of them decides to jump. How many you got left? How many?
3.
1. See, if you got 3 bullfrogs sitting on a log and one decides to jump, you still got 3. He just made a decision to jump. He never jumped. So decisions change absolutely nothing. How many of y'all in here decided to get your shit together before? And did nothing after you made the decision, and you still got your green ass sitting on the fucking log? Decisions imply further action. Now, let's say Jerry wanted to get out of the problem and come over here and join us in the solution. How would he carry out his step 3 decision? He would have to follow it up with action. Now, luckily for Jared, in the big book, in the first 103 pages, they got some action steps that will carry out his decision. And they are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And if he does those action steps like the book says, he's put himself in a position to start living again in 10, 11, and 12. I sort of look at it like this. 4 through 9 got me out of hell. And 10, 11, and 12 are putting me in a position to be in heaven. Now, 4 through 9. What do they do? Who knows what steps 4 through 9 actually do?
Help force you to change.
Look, 4 through 9 tap me into power. Because guess what 4 through 9 removes? Self. And when self's removed, I tap into power. And what 10, 11, and 12 does every day is tap me into that power deeper and deeper and deeper, where nothing life throws at me can shake me. Nothing. How many of y'all, the least little thing that life throws at you, you fucking crumble like a house of cards? And this is what you do. Boom! Go, 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 go. Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
That's what you do. Oh, I just love to be in that congregation.
Shout for me, brother.
All right, back up here. Now, look, if you don't understand how the steps work, I can just picture you up there, brother. Look, brothers, I'm sweating. Oh, Lord. All right, back up here. If you don't understand how the steps work, will you be able to take them and implement them? Look, the steps are like this. Steps 1, 2, and 3. Put me in a position to do some work. And this puts me in a position to start living again. Now, I can't do this if I've never did this. And if I don't do this, what I've decided to do is never get into the solution, but stay stuck in. Now, this is how the steps are broken down. 1, 2, and 3 are like this. Get ready, get set, go. Nothing happens until I start taking action. And once I take this action, I then know how to do. Now, what's the first action step? 4. And how many of y'all, when it comes to the 4th step, you don't want to get thorough and honest? See, you don't want to put that no good shit down there you did. You don't want nobody to know. And you say, man, I ain't telling nobody that shit. I'm going to take that to the grave with me. And that's where you're going to take it. Just a lot sooner and different than you think. Now, I've been to treatment twice. And when I went to treatment the first time, I did not want to be there. I went to get people off of my ass. I went to get parents off my ass, an ex-wife off my ass, kids off my ass, and a PO off my ass. The only thing I wanted was a completion certificate so I could bring it back to them and say, here, I did what the fuck y'all wanted. Leave me alone. Now, I know none of y'all in here like that. Now, I get out of that first treatment center, and they explain this, but I really didn't get this part. I understood this, but I really didn't get how powerful this was. So for about 3 or 4 months, I was I had to keep the charade up. You know how we did. But I did nothing over here. Didn't want nothing to do with that shit. I'm good. I got this. About the 5-month mark, guess what starts creeping in on me again? The obsession. And when it got a hold of me again, it overruled everything. It overruled what the family said. I couldn't come to their home anymore. It overruled what the ex-wife said. I couldn't see the kids no more. It overruled what the legal system said. I'd lose my freedom. It overruled all that shit. And I reached over and and when I came up for air, all those people found out and they did exactly what they said they were going to do. Now, 2 years later, after I had lost everything, homeless under a bridge. Do you ever think that could happen to you? No, you don't. Because guess who never thought it happened to him? I can show you a picture of me in the Baton Rouge Most Wanted section, and you would think I was raised by a bunch of fucking heathens. And I come from a good family. Now, when I had the opportunity, begging to go back the second time, when they explained this shit to me, like a light bulb went off. I went, motherfucker. Well, I've lost everything. And if I don't do something to remedy this, I'm good as gone. I'm down for the count. You listening? Okay. Now, when they threw me the 4-step papers the second time, see, the first time they gave them to me, all that shit I didn't want to talk about, I didn't put down there. I dressed it up with a bunch of other shit so they would think I was doing what they wanted, so I could get that certificate and show it to the PO and say, leave me the fuck alone. But the second time, I didn't go for anybody. I went for me. You know why I went for me? Because there was nobody left. There was no family, no kids. The legals had been off for a while. When they threw those 4-step papers at me, the 2 or 3 things that went on there, the first thing are the shit I didn't want to talk about the first time. I did a thorough and honest 4-step. And I didn't give a fuck who knew what I did. Because nothing could be as worse as what I did to myself. Now, one of the things I didn't want nobody to know about me. My family is real big in the Catholic Church. First in Baton Rouge and now out here. And they had gotten me a job working at a Catholic church doing maintenance for them. And they gave me the keys to the kingdom. So, about the first month or two, I'm the model employee. Y'all know how we do. And I get them trusting me. They give me the keys to everything. So I start taking their tools and I'd go pawn them and I'd smoke them up in crack. Y'all know how we do. And when I get paid, I'd go back and get them. Y'all know how we do. Until about 3 months later, guess what I quit going back to get? The tools. The little priest finds out, he calls me in his office. Just oozing with forgiveness, tolerance, patience, little bastard. Really made me fucking feel like shit then. He said, look, you can't work here anymore. He said, I'm not gonna tell your family, you'll have to. I said, it don't matter, they're gonna find out anyway. Now the shame, the guilt, and the remorse, like to ate my lunch. And how many of us, the things that are really burning and bothering, we don't want to say nothing. Everybody sitting in here, something's happened to you, you don't want to talk about, or you've done something you don't want to talk about. Now, we're going to go around the room. I do not need your damn life story. Just yes or no. Have you ever stole from the church? Just yes or no. That's all you have to say. Oh, you have to say it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Now, when I did my thorough and honest Four Step, I'm going to show you how God has a funny sense of humor. Where I went to treatment, they put you in this room with your Four Step. Somebody walked in, a recovered member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they did your fifth step. So I'm sitting in there with my Four Step. And this little guy walks in, he's about, I guess he's about that tall. He's about that big around, and he's black as an ace of spades. And I went, what the fuck? I'm going, what is he going to help me with? I'm tall, he's short. I'm skinny at the time. I was on the stem fast diet. I'm skinny, he's fat. I'm white, he's black. What he did is help me more than anybody ever had. Now, not only was he a recovered member of Alcoholics Anonymous, he was an ordained minister. So he says, Kevin, which one is bothering you the most? And I pointed to the one with the church, and he starts laughing. I said, hey, bro, what the fuck you laughing about? That was hard for me to put that down there. He says, Kevin, do you think you're the only one that's ever stole from the church? I said, well, I don't know about the only one, but I'm one of the few. He says, no, you're not. Now, he had another book in there with us. Rev, you know which one that was? What's it say about tithing, Rev? Tithing. The tithe. If you don't, 10%, and if you don't, they consider it stealing. Who in here gives 10% of everything they've ever made to the church? You?
Preach, brother.
Huh?
Preach, go.
Don't do that. You. See, so everybody sitting in here has
Stolen from the church.
not just thy. Now, he says, Kevin, I'm trying to show you something. He says, if everybody stole from the church, if God hadn't forgiven all them, there ain't nobody in heaven. He said, now, don't you think God's forgiven all them? I went, yeah. Well, why won't he forgive you? Actually, he already has. He's waiting for you to forgive yourself. See, how many of y'all think what you've done is the worst thing and nobody's ever did it but you? That's how self-centered you are. Now, if I wouldn't have put that down there, look, am I trying to make light of what I did? Look, what I did was fucked up. Am I trying to make light of what I did? No, what I'm trying to tell you is if I wouldn't have put it on that fourth step, he never would have been able to show me in that fifth step what God was trying to tell me. These people in these fifth steps, if you don't get thorough and honest, you're tying their hands. They can't help you. Now, how many of y'all, you've got one or two things you don't want nobody to know? Y'all all do. Look, who cares if you and your little cousin did something when y'all was kids? Who gives a shit? How many of y'all think you're the only one that's ever did this shit? Look, since I've been in recovery, been a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I've quit count at 300. That's how many fifth steps I've sat down with other people and did for them. And I quit counting about 10 years ago. So I've done a bunch of them. Not one time has somebody in a fifth step dropped my jaw. Not one time has somebody said something to me where I went, what the fuck, really? Because I've either done it, saw it done, heard about it. There's nothing you could tell another member of Alcoholics Anonymous that would drop their jaw. Nothing. Now, how many, don't raise your hand. How many of y'all got a couple of things you don't want nobody to know? And you say, I'm going to take it to, I'll do every other thing, but I'm not doing that. It won't work. If you put 10,000 things down there and leave one off, this won't work. Because you know what you're going to know? You're still a fraud. That's what you're going to know. That shit's going to eat you on. How many of y'all in here? That's what they have sponsors for. The question was, what if you forget something and remember it later? Well, if you're filling the 4-step out and you forgot it, you couldn't possibly fucking have wrote it down. But will some things come back later on? Yeah, and that's what we have sponsors for. But look, when you're writing the 4-step, if you forgot it, you can't write it down. But if it's up here and it don't go on paper, you're not doing a 4-step. You're doing a your step. We know where your steps get you. All right, so we're going to start talking about the 4-step for a minute. How many of y'all have ever heard of spiritual sickness? Anybody? Look, when we start rolling again, we're not going to go over all this stuff again. So you're going to have to really be ready to roll when we start on the 4-step again. Now, spiritual illness has certain signs and symptoms that tell you you've got the shit. If you had the flu, some signs and symptoms of you being physically sick would be you'd run fever, you'd be throwing up, you had the shits. Let's say you go to the doctor and you say, Doc, these are some of my symptoms. I got the chills, I'm running fever, I'm shitting, I'm throwing up. He would check you out and he'd say, I think you got the flu. Now, the next time that he speaks, it will be after he writes a prescription or a solution. And he's going to put that prescription in your hand. Now, if you go get it filled and followed as directed, will it solve the problem of you having the flu? Up here, hey, up here. Will it solve the issue of you having the flu? Yeah. Now, if you fill the prescription and don't take it as prescribed, will it solve the problem? Let's say it gives you 12 antibiotics. You start taking, just take one every day and take it after you eat. So the first 6 days you take them as prescribed and you start feeling better. And with your keen intellectual mind, you go, well, fuck, I got 6 left. I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm going to save these 6 for the next time I get the flu. We'll have to go to the doctor then. So you only take 6. About 2 or 3 days later, you start to feel bad again. And you pull those 6 out and you try to start taking them. Will they work? No. See how many of y'all take a couple of steps and you start feeling better and you go, I'm good. You get out of here and you start using again, and you try to pick back up somewhere, it don't work. Now, symptoms of being spiritually sick. Spiritual sickness has symptoms just like physical sickness. Resentments, harms done to others, and fear are signs that someone is spiritually sick. How many of y'all got a bunch of resentments? How many of y'all have a lot of guilt and remorse from harms done to others? And how many of y'all are full of fear? Now, this is one of those moments. You gotta sort of listen to this. If God is in every man, woman, and child, because that's where God is. Look, how many of y'all say God is everywhere? Do you? Then you better get the fuck up there and you sitting on him. Look, whatever your idea or belief about God is, it's not wrong. But I will tell you this, it's not working very well for you. That's what I will tell you. Now, the big book tells me God is deep down in every man, woman, and child. That's the fundamental idea of God. Now, what they mean by that is this. How many of y'all, when y'all get ready to do something wrong and you know it's wrong, you hear a little voice say, "Hey, dumbass, don't do that." Now, if there's something self really wants to do, how many of y'all block that voice out and do what you want to do? And when you do what you want to do, knowing it's wrong, you usually face consequences. And when the consequences start hitting, as those boys come back a little louder a second time and say, "You dumbass, I told you not to do that." What you call that? What? Most people do call it their conscience. I'll prove to you it's not. I'll prove it to you. Take this one back to the congregation. I'll prove it to you. The first time you hear that voice say, hey, dumbass, don't do that. Has it always been 100% dead on the money right?
Yeah.
Huh? Every time. So we know there's no way that could be your fucking conscience. Because there's only one entity in this universe that's always right 100% of the time. And that's God. See, how many of y'all sitting in here are mad at God and he's trying to direct you your whole life, you just won't fucking listen. And every time you get ready to stray from the path, he says, "Hey man, don't do that." Now, where would you be today if every time you heard that first voice say, "Don't do that"? Let's say you'd listen to it every time. Where would you be? When you were growing up, what'd you want to become? Look, everybody has a dream. Everybody has an aspiration of what they want to do in life. What was yours? Okay, let's just say for shits and giggles, every time you heard that voice say, "Hey man, don't do that." Let's say you'd have listened to it. What are the chances you'd have had a golden opportunity to pursue football? Huh? Yeah. Guess who else wanted you to pursue that? God. That's who put that idea in your head. And every time you got ready to stray from the path, he says, "Hey man, don't do that." See, how many of y'all won't listen to God? He's been trying to direct you your whole life. You just won't listen. Now, if God is deep down within me, how'd you like that one, Rev? That's good. I know. If God's deep down within me, I don't have God blocked out of my life. I got God blocked in. How many of y'all have a bunch of resentments on top of God? How many of y'all have a bunch of guilt and remorse on top of God? And how many of y'all have a lot of fears on top of God? So do you have him blocked out or do you have him blocked in?
Yeah.
Got him blocked in. Guess what 4 through 9 does? It removes the blocks. And once the blocks are removed, guess who will start directing me again? All right. And the way I keep new blocks from blocking him back in, so what we're going to inventory in the 4th step are your resentments, your fears, and your guilt and remorse from harms done to others. And if it's not thorough and it's not honest, it won't work. Comments?
It's gonna be
What?
hard as fuck.
What?
It's gonna be hard as fuck.
No, it ain't. You know what's hard? Is what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Once you give up on what you've been doing, that's easy street. You know, come Wednesday, it'll be 20 years. I've not struggled with one of those steps in 20 years. You know the one I struggled with the most? Took me about 27 and a half years to do it. I mean one. See, if you still hadn't surrendered, you will struggle with every one of those. But if you surrender, that's a walk in the park compared to what you've been doing. Who had a question?
How long did it take you to get from step 1 to step 9?
1 to 9? Well, when I came out of my 5th step, which was about 3 weeks into treatment, I took my harms list, which was, and I transferred it to an amends list. And what they tell you is, once you start 10, 11, and 12, and 10, they tell you, as you clean up the past, start doing 10, 11, and 12. So I would tell you within the month. I have a list ready to go. And it was thorough and honest.
How long did it take you to work that list?
I'm still making them in. But some of them haven't been put in front of me. But see, the freedom from the amends process doesn't come from actually doing it. It comes from the willingness to do it. I'm willing. They just hadn't been put in front of me. I made a bunch of amends, a lot of financial amends. I actually turned myself in after 30 days. So I know what it takes to go to any length. Last one. No, 2, we got 2, go.
I had 2 questions.
Go.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you made the financial amends, did you wait for it to present itself or did you speak it out?
Well, I had a good sponsor at the time, and before they started garnishing my wages at a new job, we went to the IRS. I made some amends. All right.
What if making amends to somebody would be like sort of harmful to you?
Well,
Even meeting with that person.
well, look. That can entail a lot of things that I don't think we're willing to talk about in front of some people. So for me, just to answer that question, I probably couldn't give you a straight answer. But when it says would injure them or others, you're not another. Huh? I did. Because look, sometimes Kevin can think Kevin knows everything. And my sponsor will go, well, wait a minute. When did you die and become God? See, it's easy to think you know everything listening to y'all. Y'all get ready for lunch.